The city lights glittered against the dark sky like 1,000 untouchable stars, and in a small corner of that vast world, a young man named Arav sat in his tiny apartment with a single lamp casting shadows across the cracked walls. He held an old English book in his trembling hands, its pages worn from too much use. His eyes burned with exhaustion, but his heart carried a fire that refused to die. For years, English had been his biggest barrier, blocking him from jobs, from confidence, from opportunities that always seemed to slip just beyond his reach. Tonight, however, Arav had promised himself that failure would no longer define him. Before we continue, if you believe in avenue, second chances, and the power of perseverance, please like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to English Story. Your support helps us bring more real, heart-touching stories like this one to life. Arav came from a humble family who lived paycheck to paycheck. His father drove a rickshaw, and his mother worked in a small tailoring shop. They had poured everything they had into Arav's education, hoping he would secure a job that could lift them out of poverty. But each time he went for an interview, his broken English betrayed him. He would sit in front of polished recruiters, his palms sweaty, his voice shaking, his sentences stumbling into fragments. They smiled politely, thanked him, and moved on to someone else. Each rejection became a wound, deepening his belief that he was not good enough. But even in his darkest nights, Arav carried a dream. He wanted to stand tall, to speak confidently, to walk into a room without fear. More than that, he wanted to prove to himself, and to his parents, that their sacrifices had not been in vain. So he created his own path of learning. With no money for tutors, he turned to free resources. He borrowed books from libraries, listened to English radio late at night, and replayed YouTube videos dozens of times until he could mimic every word. He whispered phrases to himself on crowded buses, wrote vocabulary words on scraps of paper, and pasted them on the walls of his tiny room. Every corner became a classroom. Still, progress was slow. There were days when frustration consumed him, when he threw his pen across the room and buried his face in his hands, ashamed of how far he still had to go. There were nights when his father returned home, sweat-soaked and weary, and Arav felt crushed under the weight of their expectations. But there were also sparks of hope, moments when he understood a new sentence, when he read an English story out loud without stumbling, when he dared to believe he was getting closer. One turning point came when Arav joined a local language group that practiced speaking every weekend in the park. At first, he stood silently at the back, afraid of making mistakes. But when it was his turn, his voice cracked as he introduced himself. People laughed lightly, not in cruelty, but with encouragement. For the first time, Arav realized that mistakes were not the end, they were the beginning of growth. Slowly, week after week, he began to speak longer, clearer, more confidently. His words carried not perfection, but courage. Months later, an opportunity arrived. A well-known company announced openings for interns, and English fluency was a key requirement. Arav hesitated at first, fear tugging at him, but then he remembered the countless nights of practice, the notebooks filled with his handwriting, the sacrifices of his parents. He walked into the interview room with trembling hands but a steady heart. When the recruiter asked him to describe himself, his voice did not break this time. His sentences were simple but strong, his words honest and clear. He spoke about perseverance, about learning, about not giving up. For the first time, the recruiter smiled, not politely, but with genuine admiration. Arav walked out of that room with a lightness he had never felt before. Days later, the call came, he had been selected. The job was not just employment, it was dignity. It was proof that effort, no matter how small, adds up to transformation. His parents wept with pride when he told them the news. Arav himself stood in front of the mirror that night, whispering in English, "I did it," and for the first time, he truly believed it. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with others, subscribe to English Story, and leave a comment below. Your support means the world and helps us keep bringing stories of hope, perseverance, and second chances. And before you go, I have one special request. Please comment the moment in this story that inspired you the most. Your words will not only encourage us but may inspire someone else on their own journey of learning and growth.